Hey there guys, LazyBeast here today with a gearing up guide for Season 2 of the War Within patch 11.1, the Undermined patch. In this video we will talk about gearing up from the new raid, the Liberation of Undermine, and some of the special items that can come from that raid, the very rare ones. We'll talk about Mythic Plus and base level dungeons, normal, heroic and above, and we'll also look at the Delves changes and how they affect the gearing in Season 2. There will be some sexy little charts coming up in this video, so feel free to pause at any point if you want to take a good look at these charts too. Also feel free to jump on over to our website lazybeastgaming.com to check out these charts and the full article at your leisure. So Season 2 will continue to use the same upgrade system that we saw in Season 1 and prior to that, so you can see here on the screen the different upgrade tracks and the item levels that are related to each one, also the type of crests that will be needed to upgrade the items on different tracks, so for example Weathered for Adventurer and Carved for Veteran and Champion gear. We will soon take a look at what gear comes from different sources, so you can see, for example, the possibilities of doing things like getting a heroic piece of gear from the raid and being able to upgrade that to Hero 6, being 665 iLvl, so basically being equivalent to a low piece of gear from the Mythic version of the raid, so Myth Track 2. Blizzard have made some positive changes to crests in Season 2 now. They did understand people's frustration, particularly around things like the gilded crest, because there was definitely a lot of frustration in the community in Season 1 where we had to do keys above 8 and above. So there was this weird mechanic where you were basically doing delves, which were in the end quite easy, and getting very decent rewards early on from the Great Vault from the delves if you were clearing tier 8s, and then you would then go into Mythic Plus and it kind of didn't feel worth doing any keys below a 7, for example, but if someone hadn't done many keys in the start of the season, going into a 7 and above is quite the rough experience if you're not used to those keys and what they feel like with the damage and the health of the mobs, for example. So people are having quite a rough experience and kind of giving up. Where also there was the issue of gilded crests only coming from keys 8 and above. So they actually lowered that down now to Mythic Plus 7, so plus 7 keys will give gilded crests, and they've also made the acquisition of those a bit easier. Through this change and the fact that you can also get gilded crests now from delves. So delves at level 11, there is a reason to do those now. You can go in there and clear them, I believe 3 times a week for the first 3 level 11 delves that you can complete. There will be a special chest at the end of that delve that contains some gilded crests, so there is reason to aim high with delves other than just achievements. I do have a video and article all about the delve changes in much more detail, so I'll link that in the description below if you wish to go and read the article or watch that specific video. So for the more casual player, here are a look at what dungeons drop what level gear. So you've got normal and heroic there, dropping fairly reasonable loot, adventurer and veteran tracks for any of the more casual players. You've also got Mythic Zeros. Now remember, Mythic Zeros are going to be a bit more of a challenge compared to a heroic dungeon. You won't have any affixes and you won't have any timer, and they actually drop kind of alright gear to begin the season off, so going up to 645 champion gear from the vault, which is not a bad start, especially for someone returning to the game to get a feel for it again, or for any newer or more casual players. So let's take that a notch up and jump into Mythic Plus item level. So here you can see the chart for what level key drops what level gear, and the items that you can get from your vault at the end of the week as well. You can also see on the chart there the crests that each run gives, so 10 rune crests drop from level 2 keys. You can see at level 7 you start to earn 10 gilded crests. Now you will get these guaranteed unless you fail the timer. If you fail the timer, you just simply get a deduction of 4 crests. Now that's the same across every level. It doesn't get more punishing as the key levels go higher. So it's a very reliable way of doing keys 7 and above to earn yourself a nice supply of gilded crests. And now let's take a look at the raid, the Liberation of Undermine, which, side note, looks like it's going to be a pretty great raid. Now you can see again the different levels of the raid, the different tiers, and what level gear they drop. Now of course, as is tradition with the raids these days, when you go to the higher bosses in the raid, they'll start to drop slightly higher base item level gear, which is as we expect. There are also a few ultra rare items, or should I say very rare, technical term, that can drop from the later bosses in the raid. So first of all, you've got the Test Pilot's Go Pack. Very cool appearance on this, by the way. It looks like some massive bongos, but they are actually rockets. This is going to give you some move speed buffs and allow you to skim over water, so a little unique effect there. Pretty nice for the slower classes, especially paladins. Shout out to the slow paladins there as well. Pat on the head for the paladins. You've also then got the Best in Slots, which is quite a different bit of a weapon this time. So this actually has the ability to switch over from being a strength and agility or a intellect weapon. So this is pretty much good for most classes, potentially, most specs. So this is great for example, a druid. If you've got a druid who does sometimes heal and plays balance, but then wants to go Feral and Guardian, you can use this weapon, switch it up outside of combat to make it from Agi to Intellect, so quite a nice ability on there. Then you've got Capo's Molten Knuckles, so a nice little fist item. Looks like you've got a really hot iron just with some spikes on it, why not? Chance to follow up attacks with a Gilded Uppercut, so you deal a big amount of damage to your target, and then splattering that onto nearby enemies as well, so a bit of an AoE component. More damage, and it's fire damage, you can't really go wrong. You've also then got the Jaster Diamond from Gallagio himself, the final boss. So here you can basically steal credit from an ally's deeds, gaining some of their highest secondary stats. So I'm not sure if this does actually leech this off them. I wouldn't have thought so, because who would want that? But you basically gain their highest secondary stats, stacking up. If they notice though, you've got a 10% chance to get noticed, in which case this buff will go to your ally instead for 15 seconds and then come back to you. So kind of nice. You can imagine a raid where a lot of people have this and everyone's just getting the stats stolen, but sharing around pretty nicely. So interesting, to say the least. The Liberation of Undermine is an 8-boss raid, so quite a good size raid, not too big, not too small. The entrance can be found at the Intercontinental Hotel at the centre of Undermine, our new hub in the Undermine zone. So nice and easy. Remember guys, we do have the Gallagio Loyalty Rewards Club. Now, it was said that we were going to get some of these puzzling cartel chips, which basically work just like the diners did that we saw starting off in Shadowlands, and we saw this in Dragonflight as well. So eventually you would earn a diner, and you could turn those in for a guaranteed piece of gear that was on its own upgrade track. It could go right from the base iLvl all the way up to myth item level equivalent. But these have then since been removed from the renown track, unfortunately. Now, when they first got put into the game, you could get these at renown level 17 and 19, but they have now been replaced for mounts. So Blizzard have said that there's going to be more to come on these things. Whether they'll get put back into this patch or not, we're not sure. But keep an eye out for that, because it is a nice bit of bad luck protection if you don't get what you want from the raid. But there we go. Either way, we're going to be earning renown with this Gallagio Loyalty Rewards Club. Whenever we start killing raid bosses, that is how you get renown on this track. And you can only earn 1 renown per week. There is a catch-up mechanic to it, so don't worry if you do fall behind. You can just come in and earn renown up until you've caught up to what the current weekly maximum is. You don't need to clear the full raid as well, so don't worry about doing an entire raid one per week. Killing around about 4 of the raid bosses and some of the more sort of minor bosses in the trash, that should probably be enough to get you 1 renown level per week. And it is across difficulties too, so you could even just jump into a quick LFR if you don't have much time that week and whiz through it that way, if you don't want to progress through, normal or heroic or mythic. So any level of raid will grant renown with the Gallagio Loyalty Rewards Club. That's a bit of a mouthful when you've said it 3 times. Alright, let's look at delves. Now, one thing to note at the start of the season, your coffer key shards and your restored coffer keys that you may have lots of in your bags currently if you've been playing, from Season 1, those ones are going to go away. They'll get deleted, maybe they'll get turned into some form of currency. It would be nice if they got turned into Undercoin or at least Resonance Crystals, but we're yet to see if that is the case. So you will start Season 2 off with no restored coffer keys. So you will need to start doing your weekly activities again to gain some more of these. Remember, if you have switched alts, for example, these can come from renown levels with the other factions, so you could get a few cheeky keys from that, potentially. The delve item level chart is currently on the screen for you to behold. Do remember that these are all on the upgrade tracks as well, so the base item level that you might get gear from can be upgraded further to be around heroic and just entry-level mythic sort of raid item level. When it comes to crest rewards from the delves level 1 to 5 will give you weathered crests. The carved crest comes from delves level 6 to 7, or if you get a bounty chest, level 4 to 5. The runed crests come from delves level 8 to 11, or if you get a bounty chest at level 6 to 7 delve. And the gilded crests come from level 11 delve, so you get an extra special chest at the end called the Gilded Stash from a tier 11 delve. I believe that's whether it's bountiful or not, but it may only be the bountiful ones. That's one thing I need to check for sure. So level 11 delves, you'll get some gilded crests. Now, I do believe it is only the first 3 delves that you do each week on level 11 that will give you crests. So you can't apparently farm this from delves alone. If you are, say, quite behind the cap and trying to catch up, you will have to do some other things like Mythic Raid or level 7 keystones and above. And then finally, crafted gear. So that will still be important in Season 2. You may be using this to craft your BIS if you know for sure the crafted item is your BIS. Best in slot for anyone that doesn't know that phrase. And it may just be a case of you're using some crafted items to fill in some lower item level slots if you've been a bit unlucky getting some gear to fill in all of your slots. That sounds rude, that, doesn't it? Anyway, moving on. Item level chart here for the crafted gear in Season 2. Now, another nice change is that you're still going to need Spark of Omens, just to say that for to begin with. Spark of Omens, still you'll get them fractured, so you get 1 per week, and basically you'll get a full Spark every 2 weeks. So you're still going to need to use these with some Valor Stones to create the actual Spark of Fortunes itself. So it has been changed from a Spark of Omens to a Spark of Fortunes, just to get that one clear. And of course, to get the actual crafted piece made for us, we need to buy a nascent crest, so like a nascent runed crest, for example, or a nascent gilded crest. Now, these, I believe, used to cost 90 crests to trade it for a nascent one. The amount has been lowered to make it easy to get these as well, which is a pretty nice change overall. There are no changes to the weekly vault in Season 2, so the number of delves and things and keys and raid bosses you've got to kill to fill up the vault is still the exact same, so that's kind of nice. There's a different achievement now as well. So you got the War Within Season 2 Master Blaster. Now previously this used to give us a piece of gear, didn't it? But it's changed this time. So for achieving this achievement, you either get 1600 rated PvP rating, or you can defeat Gallagio on Heroic or Mythic, the final boss of the raid, or get to 2000 score in Mythic Plus. So what you actually get this time is a crystallized essence of Cadgemite, and you can use this to buy a free catalyst charge. So, you know, you could, for example, week 2, if you've got some decent pieces of gear that you want to catalyze, when you get your first charge from the catalyst, then you can make your 2 sets straight away, for example, if you wish to do so. I would, of course, though, recommend still being very careful with your catalyst charges at the start of the season, especially if you are a raider who's progressing Heroic or Mythic, or if you're a high key pusher as well. Just make sure you don't waste those charges on gear that you end up quickly replacing. So a couple of just gearing up tips for you. Make sure that you keep any items that grant Valor Stones in your bags until you actually need them. The cap will still be 2000 Valor Stones in Season 2, so if you're doing quests, for example, it could be campaign quests or other things that are going to give you an item that gives you Valor Stones, just keep it in your bags until you actually need it. Don't be tempted to just open them and potentially waste the Valor Stones that you could get. So you can keep a bit of a stockpile if you're smart about it. Do continue to do delves on tier 8 and above. When it comes to your delves bounty maps, or the maps that were very, very rare for some people, myself included, I only had 2 maps on my main character in Season 1, which sucks, but this time they've implemented some bad luck protection, so you can continue to do delves until you get a map. You will get 1 map total per week, so once you've got your map for the week, you're good to go. Just make sure you do a delve and use the map to open the chest at the end for the increased piece of item level gear. The more delves you complete that week, the higher your chance will keep on increasing until you eventually get a map to drop. So there is bad luck protection implemented. Now there is a written version of this guide over on our website, LazyWeast Gaming, so feel free to jump on over there and check that out. That will be kept up to date, so if we learn of any new gearing up tips for Season 2, absolutely that will be added to the guide, so feel free to jump on over there, join the website, become a member of that as well, and you can keep up to date with all the changes. So just a couple of things to remember as well. You will run out of restored copper keys at the start of the season if you're completing lots of delves. This is perfectly normal, so don't worry thinking you've been starved of copper keys. Everybody will be in that position if you're completing enough delves each week. Eventually, you will start to, out-gear the gear that comes from delves, in which case you'll start to stockpile restored copper keys again. It's just going to be the cycle of how we deal with keys in this expansion, it seems. Do look out for world quests and other activities that reward you with copper key shards, though, to gain bonus keys. And also there's the Radiant Echoes event. It's been so long since I've done a Radiant Echoes event. You're probably the same, unless you're farming for achievements and things. But yeah, those will become relevant again. And there are some that appear in Undermine as well, so you can make use of those, so you don't have to go traipsing around the rest of Khazalgar. I would recommend holding off on crafting your piece of crafted gear, using your Spark if you can, unless you get terribly unlucky on drops and you're, for example, a high-end raider or key pusher that needs the gear, or if you're absolutely sure that the item will be your best in slot, then go ahead, but it's up to you. Just be careful before you make any big decisions on gear early in the season. Remember that you can still trade in crests for higher tier ones as well, or lower tier ones if you've got a reason to do so. Trading up crests still requires outgrowing the use of the lower tier crests, just as it did in Season 1. The cost of purchasing the higher tier crest, though, has been reduced as well. So, some nice changes overall. I think, to be fair, Blizzard have learned quite a lot from Season 1. And I do feel like I've got kind of high hopes, based off what they've said so far, that Season 2 is going to be a much smoother experience for gearing up in general. So, there we go, guys. That's the video. Like I say, Jump over to the website to keep the most up-to-date guide in front of your eyes if you wish to do so. Consider subscribing to the channel if you've enjoyed this video and found it useful for more guides and content from me, and leave it a like if you did find it useful just to help the channel out overall. Guys, thank you so much for your time. Have a very good Season 2. Good luck with the gearing up. I hope you enjoy yourself and the new raid and the new dungeon. And yeah, all the best. Take care, guys. I've been LaserBeast, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.